Hello! In today's video lesson, we're going to learn a solo ukulele arrangement of Nocturne, Opus 9, No. 2 by Chopin. This timeless melody has been adapted to the ukulele for both high and low G in a chord melody style. We're going to just use our thumb with our playing hand to bring out this rich melody and harmony while moving up and down the fretboard with our fretting hand, including throwing in some harmonics in there for good measure. To hear this entire arrangement, you can skip ahead to the end of this video. Otherwise, let's go ahead and bring the tab on screen. Should look something like this. If you'd like to download a copy of this tab, it's available right here over at my Patreon page. Every month we do a vote on songs based on suggestions of patrons, and this happened to win this month's vote. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at these first 4 bars with the pickup bar. Should sound something like this. So to start playing this, as I mentioned a moment ago, we're going to use thumb picking. If you haven't used much thumb picking before, I have a video on it right over here that's worth checking out. But I'm going to use this technique the entire time throughout this arrangement. The gist of it is that you want your thumb to actually rest on each string as it goes through. That creates a really thick, beautiful tone that really highlights this melody. To start here, I'm going to play the 3 on the E string. Take my index finger, place it right here on the 3rd fret, and I'm going to also take the pinky and place it here on the 7th fret of the A, because after I've played the pickup note, just that 3 on the E, I'm then going to strum through all 4 strings with that beautiful C chord, 0, 0, 3, 7. Then I'm going to play open on the C, and then 3 on the E to finish that first measure. From here, I'm then going to place my middle finger here on the 5th fret of the C string, my index finger on the 4th fret of the E string, and my ring finger here on the 5th fret of the A string. I'm going to pluck my C string, and then I'm going to pluck the E and A together. And then I'm going to play 7 on the A by taking the pinky and adding it right here. And then I'm going to take my middle finger off and my pinky off and move my index down to 3 so that you can see now I have ring finger on 5 of the A and index here on 3 of the E, strum through all 4 strings. I'm going to play 0 on the C string and 3 on the E string. Going to the last measure here, measure 4, I'm going to keep my index finger here on the 3rd fret of the E, but I'm going to kind of turn it and collapse it so that it does a little partial bar on the 3rd fret of the E and the A strings. Then I'm going to add my middle finger here on the 4th fret of the C string. So I have 0, 4, 3, 3. I'm going to strum through all 4 strings. I'm going to pluck the C string and finally the E string. So this whole stanza, measures 1 through 4 with the pickup bar, should sound something like this. Pretty nice, right? Going into the next set of measures, it's going to sound something like this. This part's a little bit more tricky. To start here on measure 5, we're going to begin with this really high A chord. Middle finger here on the 9th fret of the C string, ring finger here on the 9th fret of the E string, and our index finger here on the 7th fret of the A string. This can be a tight fit at first, so I recommend trying to tilt your fingernails towards your right shoulder, the shoulder that's on your playing hand, because that helps squeeze all of the fingers in place. I'm then going to strum through my C, E, and A together. And I'm going to then play my open on the E. So take just the ring finger off, and then I'm going to play open on the A, taking the index off. Then here at measure 6, I'm going to do this fancy little harmonic hit to get the tone here. This is a really cool way to get a high-pitched sound without a lot of responsibility of maintaining the fretting, because the notes are going to ring just open. If you've never done a harmonic before, the gist of it is that you want to actually touch right above the fret wire. So you see, I'm not on the fret compressing, I'm actually just hovering above the fret wire here. My finger is just making contact with the strings. I strike it, and as soon as I feel that start to highlight through, that tone starts to come through, at that point I take the finger away to create that sort of sound, and it sounds awesome here. If you want more work with this technique, I've got a video right over here you can check out. But after I've done the harmonics there on those 2 notes, I'm then going to play open on the A string, and then I'm going to play 12 on the E string with that harmonic again. Going into the 7th measure, I'm going to take my index and bar it across 10 on the C, E, and A strings, leaving the G string open. strum through all 4 strings. Then I'm going to pluck the C string and then the E string. And then the last measure here, measure 8, I'm going to move to this D minor chord. Now, if you know how to play a G minor chord down here, you know how to play this one up here because it's the same thing. What that is the middle finger here on the 9th fret of the C string, the ring finger here on the 10th fret of the E string, and the index finger here on the 8th fret of the A string. I'm going to strum those 3 strings by themselves. And this is a good moment to talk about, if you're playing a high G like me, every single time it says to play only 3 strings, you can play all 4. It creates a little different sound. If you're playing a low G, you want to make sure you don't play that G string if it's not written. And this chord's a great example of that. With the high G, sounds fine. With the low G, just stick to what's written, the C, E, and A strings. And then I'm going to pluck the 9th fret of the C string here. And then I need to slide my index finger down to the 7th fret of the A string. The goal is to keep the other fingers in play, but we're just sliding that index down to 7 to pluck that. So these 4 measures should sound something like this when they go all the way through. Going into the next 4 measures, which look something like this, it's going to sound something like this. And to play these, the first chord we're going to play is that 0-7-7-5. You can see there at the beginning of measure 9. But I want to give some context here. We were just at that 9-10-8, right? The chord that happened just previous, and then we played the 7th fret of the A string, right? We went with this. So what I want to do is, as I move down to this 0-7-7-5, all that happens is all 3 of these fingers stay engaged, and they just slide down 2 frets. And then the ring finger slides down 1 more fret to get that 7th fret on the E string. So my middle finger's here on the 7th fret of the C, ring finger here on the 7th fret of the E, and index here on the 5th fret of the A. And just like the chord we played on measure 5 at the beginning of the last stanza, which was this one here at 9-9-7, right? This one's 7-7-5. Keeping your fingers tilted towards the shoulder can help give enough room for these fingers to squeeze into position. Here we can strum through all 4 strings though. Then we play the C, and then the E. And then we go on to this next measure here on 10. We're going to take our index, bar it across the 4th fret completely, add the 7th fret on the A string with our pinky finger, strum through all 4 strings. Then we're going to pluck the open on the E string. Go ahead and just take off the index finger there to get that. And as you take that off, start looking at that 2, which is the next note. We want to get our middle finger there on the 2nd fret of the A string. And the reason we use our middle finger there is because the next chord here on measure 11 is going to be the 2nd fret with your index finger on the G string, and your ring finger comes on to the 3rd fret on the A string. Then you're going to play open on the C, open on the E. Then leaving your index where it is, you take your middle finger and move up to the 2nd fret of the E string, removing your ring finger, so you have 2-0-2-0 for measure 12. Play the C, and then the E. So that whole stanza, 9 through 12, should look something like this. Then going on to the last stanza here of our first melody section, it should sound something like this. So to play this, we're going to go way up high on the fretboard. We're going to start with open on the G. If you're playing a low G ukulele, this will sound lower. It still works. If you want, you can do a harmonic on the G instead if you're playing low G to get it to be the same pitch. But we're going to play open on the G, then we're going to play 14 on the A string. That's way high up here. I like to use my pinky finger for this. Now, when we're playing this next part, it's kind of tricky because we're going to be playing essentially a scale down on the A string. Now, ideally, we're going to use our pinky finger here at 14, and then, as a good exercise, slide that pinky down to 12. And then we play 10 on the A with the ring finger, 8 on the A with the middle finger, 7 on the A with the index finger, the 8 on the A again with the middle finger, before playing open on the A, and then 2 on the A with the index, and then 3 on the A. You can use your middle finger here if you want, and you're going to strum through a full C chord. So you see how that ends into measure 15, right? We just played 13, 14 into 15. You can see the 12, or excuse me, 14, 12, and then 10, 8, 7, 8, 0, 2, 3. So the trick here is that there's a lot of right ways to play it. You've actually, if you've been watching my fingerings, you've seen me play it 3 different times. The first time I played it, I used my pinky and then the index for almost all of it. When I talked it through, I used the pinky and slid it down before going down. And then when I played it for you just a moment ago, I used the pinky for the first 3 notes before I moved through. So what's right? Well, it's whatever's most comfortable for you, whatever you can get most consistently. I will say that our pinkies tend to be a really rough finger to use fluidly, and this can be a really great exercise for the pinky. Play the pinky on 14, play the pinky on 12, and now play the rest as you move through the hand. If you want, you can also play the pinky on 14, pinky on 12, pinky on 10, and then keep kind of 1 finger per fret for the next part. And that's another great way of doing it. So it is pretty fast though, so however you play it, just make sure that you're getting comfortable playing it through. And as we get to 15 there, you see we do our C chord, we pluck the E string, pluck our G string, and then to end it here on 16, we pluck the C string. Hold that for 2 beats before playing the 3 on the E with our our index finger here on our playing hand, because this is a repeat, and you can actually see there is a repeat marker as well as a first ending marker. And that's because at this point, it actually goes back to the beginning of the song. This 3 on the E acts as our pickup bar from the very beginning. So that you can hear it though, here is 13, 14, 15, and 16. This whole stanza should sound something like this. At this point, we repeat and we go back through our section A exactly as we played it the first time through. Now, when you're ready for it, after you've done the repeat, we now go on to this next stanza, which is going to be what we play after the second time of playing melody A. We go into this measure 17, which is our second ending. And that is just going to be 3 notes, and they're going to sound something like this, followed immediately by our new B melody, which I'll play. It should sound something like this. So a lot of bar chords are used in the B melody, making it a little bit more challenging in some ways. We're going to start by playing open on the C and then 2 on the A. I like to use my middle finger here and then the ring finger here on 3 of the A, before going on to measure 18, where we play this nice chord 0, 2, 3, 5, index finger on the 2nd fret of the C, middle finger on the 3rd fret of the E, and pinky on the 5th fret of the A. Strum through all 4 strings. And then we're going to play 2 on the C and 3 on the E. Then moving into measure 19, we take this index and we bar it all the way across the 7th fret. If you haven't done a lot of bar chords like this, it's really important that you get right up next to that fret wire. That really helps get the good pinch. And remember to not just compress the finger this way, but pull back a bit too. It's a give and take. That pull back can really help get a good sound. We're going to strum through across all 4 strings. You can also take the middle finger and stack it over the index if you find it helps get a good connection. I'm going to play the C string, followed by the E string. And then I'm going to slide this down to the 2nd fret, add the 5th fret with my pinky finger on the A string, strike through all 4 strings, then the 2 on the C and the 2 on the E. So those first 4 bars of this stanza, 17 through 20, should sound something like this. Going into the next set of 4 bars, 21 through 24, they should sound something like this. This is my favorite stanza to play in the tune, or at least one of them. We're going to start here on 21 playing this 2-2-0, 2 on the C, 2 on the E, 0 on the A, differently than you might expect. We were just here with the 2-2-2-5, the full bar, but how I want you to play this is like this. I want you to use your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the C and your ring finger here on the 2nd fret of the E. We're going to strum through just our C, E, and A strings. And it might be weird, like you might be thinking, why am I using these two interior fingers? I'm going to play 2 on the E and open on the A. And then I'm going to move these 2 fingers up 3 frets to fret 5 and add the index here to the 3rd fret of the A. And that's why I use those 2 interior fingers, is this little movement makes it much easier to play. And hey, cool, this is the same chord we played here at 7 and here at 9 at different points in the song. That's that tilt towards the shoulder chord to help squeeze the fingers in. So we're going to strum through our C, E, and A together, then play the A string 2 more times, then strum it through again for measure 23. This part's challenging, but this is what makes it my favorite part to play. I'm going to slide the index down to 2 on the A string, slide it back up to 3 on the A string, add the pinky on 5 of the A string, and then take it off for 3 on the A, still with the index. Before then, on measure 24, taking off the ring and middle fingers, exposing just the 3rd fret on the A string with the index, strumming through all 4 strings. And finally playing the C and the E strings. So that whole part is pretty tricky. Looking at 23 again. So if that's too difficult to squeeze all those fingers in, it is okay to use the fingers individually. The reason why we don't want to do that, ideally though, is because this chord melody style has the melody and harmony ringing together at all times, which creates that really beautiful, rich, full sound. And we do that by maintaining our fingers on the strings as we go through. So ideally, that's what we want to do. To hear it though, here's measures 21 through 24. Should sound something like this. Going on to the next 4 measures, they should sound and look something like this. To play these 25 through 28, we're going to start with just the 3rd fret on the E string with our index finger here. We're going to play the C string and then the E string. And then we're going to slide this up to bar all the way across the 9th fret with our index finger on all 4 strings. Then add your 10th fret on the A string with your middle finger. Strum through all 4. It's like a D7 chord moved way up to be an A7. But we're going to strum through all 4. We're going to play a C, E for the strings. Then we take the middle finger off, strum through our C, E, and A. Then play the C string. And then we're going to take the bar, just slide it down to 7 and play just the 7th fret on the A string. And the reason why we're moving that bar down is because here at 28, we slide it down all the way to 2 and add the 5th fret on the A string with the pinky finger, strum through all 4 strings before playing the C string and the E string. Kind of cool, right? That whole part looks and sounds like this. Going into the next section here, measures 29 through 33, is going to sound something like this. So this part's a little funky. It's got some what we call chromaticism, which means we're playing 1 fret at a time. We're going to have some chromaticism at the end of the song too, but to play this section, we're going to start 1, 2, 0, 2. This is actually an E7 chord at the beginning of measure 29. Index here on the 1st fret of the G string, middle finger on the 2nd fret of the C string, ring finger on the 2nd fret of the A string. Strum through all 4 strings. Play the E string, A string. Going on to measure 30, kind of neat. We just take our middle finger off and move our index and ring fingers up 1 fret. So you see how it was at 1 and 2. Now it goes to 2 and 3. So index here on the 2nd fret of the G, ring finger here on the 3rd of the A, strum through all 4 strings. Play the C and then the E. Then we go to an everyday G chord. Just have your ring finger come up to the 3rd fret of the E string, index down to the 2nd fret of the C string, add your middle finger here on the 2nd fret of the A string, strum through all 4 strings, play open on the A, taking the middle finger off, add the middle finger back on for 2, and now going into 32, we're going to play our G, C, and E, stopping on the A. See, I'm not playing that A string. And then I'm going to play 4 on the E string. Now I can just use my pinky cross it over here and get that 4th fret, play it twice. Before measure 33, taking that pinky off and taking the middle finger off so that I have 0, 2, 3, 0, play through all 4 strings, and then play the open on the A again before playing 2 on the A with the middle finger. So measures 29 through 33 should sound something like this. And that actually wraps up our B melody section. From here we go on to measure 34, and 34 through 37 should look very familiar because, well, they're exactly the same as 1 through 4 was. This A melody remains exactly the same through most of it. And I'm going to play it through so that you can see and hear it. Again, it's exactly the same as we learned at the beginning of the song. Sounds something like this. At this point, though, it is a little bit different. So I'm now on measure 45, as you can see on the tab. Now, when we played this measure earlier in the song, it was measure 12, and we played this little 2-0-2-0, and then we played a couple notes after it. When we play it here on measure 45, though, we just strum through, and as you can see, we just let it ring for the full 3 beats, which is kind of neat, because then moving on to the next section, measure 46, 47, 48, 49 to finish the song, it's going to sound something like this. And this is a really cool little chromatic line. To play this, we play open on the G, and then we are going to play the 14th fret on the A string again. But when we do this, we are just going to start moving down from 14 all the way to 7. So we're going to play 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. What fingers do we want to use here? Well, it's a good question, and there's not a singular answer to this. You could just use your index if that's comfortable. What I would recommend, though, is start with your pinky, and then go to your ring, and then your middle, and then your index, and then carry the index all the way down. Another way you can do it is have your pinky go down until the index ends up on 7. There's a lot of ways that you can do this, but as long as you're getting good consistency with it, doesn't matter too much. In fact, I would even say the way that gives you the most consistent tone is the best way for you to play it so that you can get a crystal clear sound on these really high frets. But as I'm playing this part, I often like to do a decrescendo, which means I get a little softer. And I like to add a little bit of rubato. Rubato means to play with feeling, and really what it means here is to slow down a little bit to make it a little bit more of an emphasis, a little more dramatic. And that might sound like this. And you see, once I get to the 7, I play open on the A, and then 2 on the A with my index finger here. Before we go on to 48, I just add the middle finger here on the 3rd fret of the A string, strum through all 4 strings before plucking the E, G, and the C to finish the tune. All right, so that last part should sound something like this. And you hear how I get a little softer as I go through. I slow down a bit because I think it adds some nice drama for this beautiful tune. Bring the camera back up. This arrangement was a ton of fun to work out. What I love so much about it is it's approachable. It's challenging. Do not get me wrong. It definitely is challenging. You're moving up and down the neck with some chord shapes that you may or may not have seen before, but it's approachable. It's one that any skill level can start to work on and start to add their own sound to this beautiful melody. So as always, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. If you'd like to download the tab, again, it's linked over at my Patreon page. To all my patrons, thank you so much for everything. It's thanks to your support I'm able to make these lessons here on YouTube. If you've enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next lesson here. Thank you so much.